The Crythian armada descended upon Earth's orbital defenses like a plague of steel locusts. Their weapons, refined through 1,000 conquered worlds, tore through humanity's defensive grid with contemptuous ease. Within 3 hours, every satellite was debris. Within 6, the moon base went dark. The message that followed was translated into every human language simultaneously. Surrender, serve, survive. The Galactic Council had warned the Crythians. Ambassador Velthar of the Cessine Collective had specifically cautioned against provoking the humans. "They are different," she had said, her mandibles clicking nervously. "They wrote fiction about their own extinction for entertainment. They made games about survival in impossible conditions. They are not like us." Supreme Commander Zakthol had laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Every species thinks they are special. Every species learns they are not." He learned the truth 72 hours later. The first sign was the silence. After the initial bombardment, the Crythians expected panic broadcasts, surrender negotiations, or at least pleas for mercy. Instead, every human transmission channel went quiet. Not jammed, not destroyed, simply silent. Then the attacks began. A Crythian troop transport approaching New York disappeared in a flash of light. Analysis suggested a crude nuclear device detonated at close range. The humans had strapped a warhead to a civilian cargo shuttle and flown it directly into the ship. No warning, no hesitation, just impact. "Barbaric," Zakthol muttered. "They destroy themselves to harm us?" His tactical officer's response was uncertain. "It appears so, Commander." But 3 more transports vanished. Same method, different cities. The humans were turning their own civilian infrastructure into weapons, and they were doing it with terrifying efficiency. The ground invasion of Europe became a nightmare. Crythian soldiers, trained and equipped for conventional warfare, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to fight conventionally. Entire battalions disappeared into the ruins of human cities, only to be found days later, killed by traps that ranged from sophisticated to absurdly primitive. Pitfalls with sharpened rebar, remotely detonated gas lines, autonomous drones reprogrammed to carry chemical payloads. One squad reported being attacked by what appeared to be modified agricultural machinery. Another was ambushed by civilians armed with homemade explosives constructed from fertilizer and diesel fuel. The humans weren't just fighting. They were innovating, adapting, and escalating with every passing hour. "This makes no tactical sense," Zakthol's senior strategist reported. "They sacrifice entire battalions for marginal gains. They booby-trap their own hospitals, their own schools. They are fighting as if they expect to lose everything." "Perhaps they do," Zakthol replied, but uncertainty crept into his voice. The turning point came at the Battle of the Atlantic Trench. A Crythian underwater installation, established to coordinate naval operations, detected massive movement in the deep ocean. Before they could respond, the facility was struck by something that should not have existed: a weaponized earthquake. The humans had detonated a series of precisely placed nuclear charges along a fault line, triggering a submarine landslide that buried the installation under millions of tons of rock and sediment. They had literally reshaped the ocean floor to eliminate a single target. Zakthol stared at the reports, his combat-hardened mind struggling to process what he was reading. They weaponized plate tectonics, but the humans weren't finished. They were, as their own historical records would later reveal, just getting warmed up. The Crythian supply lines, stretching back to their staging bases in the outer solar system, began to fail. Freighters went missing. Escort ships reported being harassed by what appeared to be heavily modified civilian vessels, moving in coordinated wolf packs. The humans had turned their merchant marine into a guerrilla fleet, and they were hunting Crythian logistics with savage efficiency. Then came the bioweapon, not deployed by the Crythians, developed by the humans, a targeted pathogen, engineered with frightening speed that attacked Crythian respiratory systems. It wasn't perfectly lethal, but it was debilitating enough to render entire divisions' combat ineffective. The Crythians had biological warfare protocols, but they were designed for military use, not for a pathogen distributed through modified crop-dusting aircraft and even trained birds. They militarized their wildlife? Zakthol's voice cracked. The final straw was the asteroid. Humanity's mining colonies in the belt, thought to be evacuated and irrelevant, had instead been repurposed. Using a combination of nuclear charges and mass drivers, human engineers had altered the trajectory of a 3-kilometer-wide asteroid, sending it on a collision course with the Crithian staging base on Mars. The base detected it too late. The impact was extinction level. The entire Crithian expeditionary command structure was eliminated in an instant. When Ambassador Velthar arrived with the Galactic Council's peacekeeping force, she found a shattered Crithian fleet in full retreat and a human delegation waiting at the negotiation table. They looked tired, haunted even, but there was something else in their eyes, something cold. "We didn't start this," the human representative said quietly, "but we would have finished it." Velthar had reviewed the combat reports during her journey. The humans had lost 2 billion people. Entire nations were radioactive craters. Their orbital infrastructure was gone. Their economy was in ruins, and yet they had fought with such ferocity, such creativity, such absolute refusal to surrender, that they had broken an empire that had conquered half the galaxy. "Your species is terrifying," Velthar said, and it was not an insult. The human smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You have no idea. That wasn't us being terrifying. That was us showing restraint. We have weapons we didn't use, tactics we didn't deploy. We could have made this system uninhabitable for everyone, including ourselves." "Why didn't you?" "Because we still had hope we'd survive. But if you'd pushed us just a little further, if you'd made us believe we had nothing left to lose." The human leaned forward. "Evolution didn't make us the apex predators of our world by accident. We hunted megafauna to extinction with pointed sticks. We thrived in every environment on our planet. We survived ice ages, plagues, and our own worst impulses. We are very, very good at surviving. And when survival is off the table, we are even better at taking everyone else down with us." The Crithian Empire formally surrendered 3 days later. The Galactic Council established the Sol system as a protected zone, and a new law was enacted. Provocation of humanity was forbidden without council oversight. In the years that followed, humans integrated into galactic society, bringing their technology, culture, and perspective. They became known as skilled diplomats, innovative engineers, and valuable allies. But every species in the galaxy remembered the war. They remembered what happened when humanity was given, as one human soldier had put it during the conflict. Finally, a reason to get really vicious. And they made very sure never to give them that reason again.